Is the dream of homeownership that was promoted to so many people quickly disappearing in Canada and the US? Will one day homeownership only be for the wealthy and elite?
What'd you do?
Many people are either stuck still living with their parents or shackled by snowballing rent increases and an endless sea of ever-increasing bills as they watch home values continually soar.
$60K a year? That used to be like a decent amount of money. Not anymore.
I have 3 jobs, and I'm just getting myself farther and farther into credit card debt because I don't have enough to avoid using it.
Wondering what will happen.
This is what $1 million gets you in Toronto and in the Greater Vancouver area. It doesn't get you as much in Canada's most expensive cities. Travel to Edmonton, though, and that million goes a lot farther. A new report shows the average $1 million place has 3.2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and more than 1,700 square feet of living space.
They feel forgotten about and that they missed out. This video may inspire some people and anger others. It's no secret to anybody who's living in Canada about the outrageous cost of living, housing, food, so this is nothing new. In actuality, this has been increasing for the last few decades, but it's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that we've really seen it in our faces with the cost of housing. In 2024, both Canadians and Americans, in particular young people and first-time homebuyers, are wondering if they'll ever be able to afford a house. It's no secret that the cost of living in both of these countries has been skyrocketing, but it's only in the last few years that people have really felt that financial pinch. And these aren't extravagant expenses. These are everyday items from everything from monthly utilities to weekly groceries to buying a decent car to the pinnacle on top, the cherry on top of this money ice cream sundae, buying a house and the cost of monthly rent, or more specifically, the outrageous cost of home ownership in 2024.
I will show you where I have made my home whilst preparing to bring justice.
U.S. home prices are currently at all-time highs and less affordable than at the height of the 2006 housing bubble. That's after prices skyrocketed by about 40% during the pandemic. And don't even get me started on the cost of living in Canada, as it's utterly ridiculous. In actuality, it costs about 40% more to buy a house in Canada than in the US. According to Royal LePage Market Survey forecast, the aggregate price of a home in Canada is set to increase 5.5% year over year to $843,000 in the fourth quarter of 2024, with the median price of a single-family detached property and condominium projected to increase 6% and 5% to $879,000 and $616,000 respectively. Many sellers are still reluctant to sell despite these lowering home prices, and it's this combination of high prices and high interest rates that are keeping a lot of buyers out of the market right now. In 2018, the average home in Canada was $488,000. Now in 2024, it's jumped up to $694,000. That's a 42% increase in just 6 years. To buy a home in Canada with the standard 5% down payment, that works out to be just shy of $35,000 that first-time home buyers need to come up with. There are some forecasting that this trend will continue into 2025, raising prices another 4% or $28,000. People are finding out very quickly that anything remotely affordable isn't quite their dream of what they envisioned and is either too good to be true or it's a scam. And renters are experiencing the exact same thing regarding tiny apartments, outrageous prices, very questionable living conditions, and of course, scammers. Whatever your housing or rental situation is, know this, that you are not alone and it is definitely not easy. Websites such as The Visual Capitalist are currently saying that Canada has the most overvalued housing in the world. The Economist has determined that Canada's property market is the most overvalued in terms of rent prices, 89%, and the third most overvalued in terms of income, 35%. They have mentioned in the past that the market has looked bubbly for some time, but finally Canada is officially at the top of their list. Many young people are very furious about this situation, and I don't blame them. Others are choosing just not to think about it, get it out of their head. They don't want the stress and aggravation and worry and just can't deal with it right now with everything else they have going on. I get it. I've been there. I was able to land a great job in oil and gas. I worked with CEOs, had the window office. I worked really hard, increased my skill set and experience, was able to get promoted. Eventually, I scrimped and saved enough to come up with a down payment. We're able to buy a house and raise a family. But it was very, very challenging at times. So I totally get what young people are going through. I've been there. Many young people and teens grow up with this mentality of home ownership pumped and promoted on by their parents because, well, that renting is just throwing your money out the window. You should be investing in a property and a home. So I get it. I was sold the same Canadian and American dream. Right after high school, you get out, you go on to college or university, you study really hard, you get A's, eventually you get out, get a great paying job, you work really hard, gain experience, increase your skill set, then eventually after you get promoted and scrimp and save for a down payment, you land a home. You're finally able to buy a decent sized home. Not a mansion, but just an affordable, decent sized home. From there, you raise a family and you live happily ever after. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but not quite. As that no longer cuts it, people are graduating college and university and realizing that even with a great paying job, they can barely get by. They can't even afford everyday necessities such as rent and groceries. Some people who live in Toronto are actually finding it cheaper to stay in a hotel as opposed to paying monthly rent. Think about it. Your room is clean, it's well kept, low maintenance costs, you have access to a pool, maybe a gym. It's very well taken care of. You have everything probably but a kitchenette. And then we have stories about this young student here who is actually finding it cheaper to stay in Calgary and then fly to her classes in Vancouver. Pretty outrageous.
The flights make financial sense in the region's out-of-control rental market.
Arts student flies twice a week from Calgary to Vancouver, saving big bucks on rent. He pays roughly $150 per round-trip flight twice a week, about $1,200 per month total. That's half the average rent for a one-bedroom in the city.
Now, I don't want to make this video about Canada bashing it, saying it's a horrible place to live. It's not. However, we must look objectively at the situation we're all in. Being a finance channel, I know this, and I'm sure everybody else is aware of it, but they always say you should have about 25 to maybe 30% of your net income allocated towards your mortgage or your rent, housing. However, times have certainly changed since the 1970s and 80s. People are spending not only 40, but maybe 50 to even 60% of their net income towards their housing, shelter. Some of the main concerns that I hear from young people is that they can almost afford that monthly mortgage payment if they had roommates or they lived with a friend. However, it's coming up with that initial down payment that's the real setback and challenge. That initial down payment hasn't changed. It's still only 5% for first-time home buyers. However, that goal line keeps getting pushed further and further away because home prices keep increasing. Many people that have moved to Canada and America are in similar situations as they were promised the same Canadian and American dream. I remember the first home that my parents bought in the 1980s. It actually only cost $88,000. It had shag carpet, half the walls were wallpaper, it had a TV antenna, had no garage, but it was a decent sized 1,900 square foot affordable home nonetheless. Now that same home would cost you about $510,000. And no, that increase isn't all due to inflation. I really don't think that it's asking too much for every hardworking Canadian and American resident to be able to buy and afford a decent sized home that is within their means. However, 25 years. That is the median amount of time that it'll take someone earning a salary of approximately $92,000 to be able to afford a home in Toronto currently. So many people are either moving provinces or leaving Canada altogether, which is actually a very trending topic right now. However, on my channel, what I want to represent and stand for, what I want my brand to be known as, is not one of blame. It's a very complicated issue and there are many moving parts to this. Are some of these factors? Definitely, yes. However, That is not going to change your situation. So there are two kinds of people in this world. The first person adopts the philosophy that everything is luck. Everything just kind of happens and you have very little control over it. Their life is just subject to chance. And they go with the wind, and whatever happens to them, happens to them. And they sometimes adopt that, well, the government screwed me and it's the Bank of Canada's fault and it's the current political government's fault, whoever's in power, and high immigration levels. And all. Are some of these factors? Yes, of course. Of course they are. However, we don't know for sure if another political party was in power, if things would be any better. No one can really prove that. Then there's the second kind of person. Someone who thinks, okay, I don't care what the odds are, what I have to do. I am going to become a first-time home buyer. I am going to make it happen. And they take charge of the situation, properly analyze the problem, and figure out a viable solution for it. This second set of people, the one that adopt a strong mentality and say to themselves, I am going to figure out a solution and not let myself become a victim to this, they are far more likely to succeed in life. I know that some people will say, this isn't a real solution and this isn't even an answer. But the number one thing above anything else, the number one thing that you bring into this life is...
And I'd like to tell you about the magic word. The experts call it the most important word as far as the results we get from life are concerned in this or any other language. And the magic word is attitude, and which control to a surprising extent our success or failure.
Your attitude. However you deal with and respond to whatever life throws at you. Everybody's heard the popular saying, I can't control always what happens to me, but I can control my reaction to it. Well, it's true. This is the single determining factor of a person's success. This is a big contributing factor to why I chose the name Money Mindset, because there are so many things that just start with the right mindset. Look at me. I'm an extremely educated person with a wealth of experience, and yet people click off my videos as soon as I mention emergency fund or creating a budget, because people have heard it to death, but it is so important. These rules still apply, but I get it. Many people don't want to hear this rhetoric when they're like, create an emergency fund, develop a budget. I am going into the hole every month. So it doesn't really fully apply yet, but they are still very important. Hindsight is 20/20. My integrity and reputation means everything to me, and I will not sacrifice it to go out on a limb and say, oh, I believe in this, if I actually don't believe in it. I've worked over 25 different jobs throughout my career, everything from fast food and a grocery clerk, to a general laborer, to a manager and supervisor, to a capital accountant. So I have a wealth of experience that I can offer people. There is no one single person hiding behind the curtain, pulling strings, manipulating the whole economy. That is the Wizard of Oz. That is not reality.
Do you presume to criticize the great Oz?
People are already familiar with many of these financial principles, such as pay down your debt, avoid refinancing any big items if you have to, watch your expenses. So many of this we've been over and over. However, these rules still apply, but it's very hard for people struggling when their net income is only so much and they don't have a lot of wiggle room to play with. These things obviously still matter, but they alone are very hard to rely on to get people out of this financial rut. However, the only two options that are available is a person either has to decrease their expenses or they have to increase their net income. So either they have to drastically find a way to cut down their expenses, or they have to bring in additional income such as a side hustle or a second job. Now, do I know if interest rates are going to go up or down? I don't, and I don't claim to, as there's many contributing factors to it. However, I can say that one thing I watch with great interest in that I think is one of the government's primary concerns is inflation. If inflation goes a little bit above that 2% mark, I really start paying attention to those numbers. However, if it goes below 2%, it means inflation is very much under control, at least for the time being. So if I am concerned about interest rates going up, I turn and look at the inflation numbers first. They are a very strong indicator, usually, of what the government is planning on doing. Many people are stuck wondering if they're going to be living with their parents forever, in a basement, in a crappy rental apartment. I don't know. Of course, there's circumstances beyond our control. We don't know what the government is going to do, what the economy is going to be like in a year or two, but the better financially prepared and stable you are, You'll be in a much more strategic position to be able to move and act when is the right time for you, given house prices, interest rates, and etc. So I'm about getting you financially prepared. Remember, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Except for bears. Bears will kill you. There are several ideas currently being introduced to help struggling Canadians and help combat this housing crisis. The first idea is the tax-free first home savings account. I made a video about this, which I'll link up above right here, but it basically is an investing account that you can set up that allows for money to be deducted from your paycheck before taxes. Then it can be invested and later withdrawn tax-free. There is no tax ever taken off of this investment account. Tax-free in, tax-free out. The second idea is renting to own, and it is just how it sounds. Tenants are allowed to rent a home with the option of purchasing that home in the future. A portion of that monthly rent payment goes towards building equity and can be used for the down payment on that home. Third, homes are being built with greater density or closer together and being made smaller. This is a good idea. I feel as long as the homes are well built, it might be worth checking out. However, I understand why some people may not feel this is a great idea, as it's a far cry from what most people envision in their heads. However, there are some great small home options out there. Fourth, the doubling of first-time homebuyers tax credit to $10,000 and the first-time homebuyers incentive, allowing first-time homebuyers to lower their monthly payments. Fifth, a foreign ban is being implemented in Canada to prevent foreign investment for at least 2 years on residential properties. Yay! Taking steps to ensure property flippers pay their fair share of taxes. The sixth option, people are considering becoming a landlord. This might be a viable option if you can handle living with other people. However, before taking this on, I would consult a professional financial advisor or a mortgage broker. Is any of this ideal? Of course not. Many people are still having to run to the bank of mom and dad who have their own financial struggles as well. Others are getting a part-time job, and this is nothing new. Some people have 2 or 3 jobs even. Should you have to work this much? Of course not. It's ridiculous. But unfortunately, it is what it is. But remember this, you only fail once you stop trying. I make my videos with the premise that what would older Aaron say to younger Aaron? How would I talk to myself in the past? If I was traveling back 20 years from the future, how would I advise my younger self to avoid the financial mistakes that I had made in the past? In 2024, for Canada, like I said, home prices are expected to steadily increase. However, in places like Toronto, they're actually noticing a decline in home prices, and inflation numbers are coming in reportedly lower than expected. However, unemployment levels are starting to increase. They believe this is due primarily to people having stopped looking for a job. In addition to the things I've mentioned, try getting a side hustle, bringing in extra income. Many people already know this, but it is so beneficial to you to spend an extra 10 hours a week maybe, bringing in additional income. I know some people have second and even third jobs. It's ridiculous, but there really isn't much more that a person can do. You're probably doing an outstanding job and you just don't know it at managing your expenses and your bills and trying to bring in and save as much income as you can. So keep your head up, it will get better. You never know exactly when, things just might change.